Hello, everybody. Today we are here and Rangsk is going to teach me how to set a Sudoku puzzle. I'm super excited. I've had a lot of people recommend that I should try this. So I'm excited and a little anxious to get into it. Let's go ahead and get started. We have the Sudoku Maker app open.
Yeah,
And
so hi, I'm Rangsk. So I've been setting Sudokus for about 4 years, and I also set and feature the Sudoku Adventure series if you're interested in 6x6s. And so I thought I would coach Kathy here to see if she can make her own Sudoku. And I'm going to try to just give generic advice, and it'll be your puzzle rather than our puzzle. So
okay,
let's see how
awesome.
that goes. So what first you have to decide on size. What size of puzzle do you want to make?
I think I'm not feeling too ambitious on this, so let's just take it easy and make a 6x6. So how would I go about changing that?
Yeah, so there's a new button on the left there, and you can just click that. And then keep it at Sudoku, and then Sudoku size at the bottom. You just change it to 6x6. Hit
Perfect.
create. Right, now we have a 6x6 with the default regions. That is editable, but I'm assuming you want to stay with the default for your first puzzle.
Yeah.
All right, so the next thing you need to decide is what is the constraint or maybe two constraints that you might want to work with? Like arrows, killer cages,
I
prop
was
key.
I was gonna say killer cages, I think. I like doing math, so I think that'll be easiest for me, I imagine, to set a puzzle like that as well.
Okay, so what you want to do is click the add constraint button on the left there, and you can search for killer. You just type it. There you go. So you just click killer cage there. And so now you are editing a killer cage. So if you were just to drag on the yeah, so if you click add there, yeah,
Oop.
click add, and then you can just drag on the grid for where you want your cage to be.
Ooh, okay.
And then you can just type like 10 or something, and that'll be the sum. And so
Okay.
then now you have a 10 cage. So that's just an example, of course. But the next thing to think about is usually puzzles have some kind of break-in, basically an initial idea that gets the puzzle started. And it's also really nice as an initial idea, so you can sort of get something on on the Sudoku to
Right.
get going. So think about like what is it something that you want to play around with in terms of an interaction between killer cages or an interesting sum for a killer cage, something along those lines, an interesting shape even.
Okay. So, hmm. I'm trying to think when I solve I'm only used to solving. So I'm trying to think backwards of like what I like doing when I'm solving it, of what I would like to see in another puzzle, trying to think about it that way. Um,
Yeah. And that's a really good way to think about it because setting puzzles is actually really similar to solving, except you're creating the puzzle as you go. So what
right.
we're going to be doing is saying, okay, obviously at the start we're stuck, we can't do anything. But also we're going to basically be solving as we go as we add these cages. And we're going to get stuck at some point where we can't make progress. And then we're going to say, what would be a cool clue to give us progress from this point? And we're going to add more clues to do that. So it's almost like it basically is a make your own adventure Sudoku. So,
Right.
um, so yeah, what were you playing around with cages at this point? Like, what do you enjoy about the math of killer cages?
Um, I like when there's a complicated number. Like if there were to be a 7 here, there's several different options to get 7 from the numbers 1 through 6. So it's fun to narrow down like what would have to go there, or also options like a 12 would have to be two sixes. You don't have an option there. Or
Yeah, but actually, killer cages you can't repeat digits, so 12 would be impossible. So
oh,
like 10
true.
and 11 are the forced cages, as well as 3 and 4. Um, are kind of the minimum and maximums. So playing around with minimums and maximums can be neat as well. Also having like a 3, 4, 10, or 11 cage can be a good way to get the person started. They go, oh, because the eye's immediately drawn there. And if you can direct the focus of the person solving your puzzle, that can really help them kind of find the path through. So
Right.
like a good way to get them started is like, hey, look, there's an 11 cage here. That has to be 5, 6. Maybe you should start there, right? And sometimes people will even just put it top left. to be like, hey, look
Right.
here. And then from there, then it's like, oh, what does that 5, 6 do that now gives me information that I couldn't have used? Like, I couldn't have solved this part of the grid before, but now that I know that that's 5, 6, now I can. And so you kind of take them on a journey. And that's what I'd recommend doing here um, for this setting. So you don't have to take that idea specifically, but if you have an idea of like, hey, let's get them started here with something obvious, that might be a good way to get them in.
Let's go ahead and do that. Let's start with an 11 in the top left.
Okay, so now what you should do is in using the number pad, you can go to the center marking mode.
Okay.
And you can actually just put 5, 6 in there. So we're literally
Perfect.
solving as we go.
Perfect.
And so now you have that notated. And so now you're looking at that 5, 6, and we're seeing, okay, that takes 5, 6 out of the rest of the box, also takes 5, 6 out of the column. So maybe a clue that kind of peeks into one of those now can't have 5, 6 in that cell, and maybe that's interesting for some reason.
Okay, so if we have something here, like, okay, so like if I were to put a 7 here, I was talking about how 7s have multiple options, but it would be narrowed
Right.
down by the fact that there's a 5, 6 here already.
Yeah, it would be forced to be 3, 4.
7?
Because you can't do 1, 6 and you can't do 2, 5 anymore.
Right.
So it would be 3, 4. And so now you can actually also pencil in box 1 that the other 2 cells are 1, 2. So maybe something that you might, I like to think about rewarding the solver. It's a really good way to approach it, is like, there's this seduction I wanted them to find, and I want to reward them for finding it. So for example, that 1, 2 there, maybe we reward them for finding that there's that 1, 2 pair there that takes 1, 2 out of the rest of the row. So maybe we put another clue that either is in or peeks into row 1 that is benefited by knowing that that cell can't be 1 or 2.
Okay. Okay. Um, okay, things that would use a 1 could be like a 1, 4 to get a 5 or a 2, 3 to get a 5.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting one. So if you make that a 5 cage there, and you were to pencil that, now you would, I think this is what you're getting at. The top cell would only be 3, 4, and the bottom cell would only be 1, 2. Right.
Right.
And
Okay.
so now something to think about is, do we want to reward penciling that 5, or do we want something that maybe interacts with the 5? Do we want to maybe use something else that we've clued? It's up to you. This is where this is where the creativity is involved, of course.
Okay, so we penciled in this 5, which if I were solving a puzzle, I would look to see. Maybe if I go this way.
So
Ooh.
some obvious things the 5 cage does to that column is it restricts where 5 and 6 can go because they can't go in the 5 cage.
Yeah.
But also you have created that 3, 4, and 1, 2. So maybe there's something interesting like creating a 1, 2 pair or a 3, 4 pair in the column or something that might be interesting. That just me spitballing here, but just trying to talk about what I would be thinking about here.
Right. Try to give some prompts here. In order to place a 1, 2.
Something to think about at least is if you want to branch into, say, a 3-cell cage. A 3-cell 6 cage is 1, 2, 3, and a 3-cell 7 cage is 1, 2, 4, which does involve the 1 and the 2, and also the 3 and the 4. So
Okay.
that would be something maybe we could experiment with, is putting a 3-cell cage kind of horizontally where you were highlighting. That kind of peeks into the column 6 there.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Add one of these.
And then whichever of 6 or 7 suits your fancy. You already have a 7 cage, so maybe another 7, but you also have a 7 and a 5. So whatever is aesthetic to you at this point. We can always change it if we decide the logic's better, but I think it's at this point going to be similar.
Let's do 7s. I like the idea of the 7s having a lot of options.
Mm-hmm. Well, in this case, this 7 can only be 1, 2, 4. So if you go into center mark mode, you can just put 1, 2, 4 in there. And so now what we've done is we've we've almost created a 1-2 pair. And then also if so it's either a 1-2 pair or that rightmost cell is a 4, which then resolves the 5 cage as only 3-2. So maybe that's something to think about. Like, what can we do with that information? If there's only those two options, either the 5 cage is a 3-2, or we've created a 1-2 pair. Because if you think about the cell in the 7 cage, that's all the way to the right in column 6, right? I'm thinking about the different worlds that exist for that, right? It's either
Okay.
a 1 or a 2 or a 4, right? If it were a 1 or a 2, it makes that 1-2 pair with the 5 cage. Do you see what I mean there?
Right.
So it would eliminate 1-2 from the rest of the column. If the only other option is that it's a 4. And what does that do to the 5 cage?
It would tell you that this is a 3-2.
Yeah. So in both of those worlds, the cells below it in that column can't be 2, right?
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So that's a really neat deduction. And so maybe we can reward that by saying, okay, well, we know those can't be 2 anymore. So is there some kind of cage we can make that kind of helps start resolve things? Because we are running out of space a little bit.
Yeah.
With 6x6s, you gotta be a little heavy-handed sometimes. But I would experiment with drawing a cage that just gets instantly resolved because we know that one of those cells can't be 2. Or does something interesting because we know one of those cells can't be 2. So like a small cage maybe. Like a
Okay.
3,
So,
something like that.
uh, like a 3 going this way, knowing that this
Right.
one can't be a 2.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's kind of my thought. That was kind of my instant thought. I'm sure there's a lot more we could do with that. But so now what you can do is you can say, well, I know that bottom cell can't be a 2. So it's got to be a 1. And you can just fill in the 1. You can use the big numbers. And then, of course, that then resolves the 5 cage.
2, 3, and this would be the 4, and
Yeah.
then
So
this would not. Can I do control clicks on this website? Yes.
yeah, I think so. Cool. So
Oh,
you
and
see
then
how, yeah, you see how that's all just resolved because of this random 3 cage down there. I think that's neat.
right, yeah. It took me a second to get there, but I definitely see what you're saying now.
Yeah. So now what we want to do is we have done some logic and we want to make sure like, okay, have we actually done this right? So what you can do is you can remove the markings that you have. So you can just highlight it all and delete it.
Like these markings, or?
Yeah, just all your markings. You can just delete them. You
Oh,
can keep
okay.
the cages, but just remove all your markings. Remove the big digits too. Now, there's on the top right, those are your solver controls. And if you click on the 4th one that has all those numbers in it, click that.
Find all solutions and valid candidates.
Okay, now something to pay attention to is how many solutions it found and whether all of them were found. Because it'll stop at 1,000. So if it finds less than 1,000, then this is perfect. If it finds more than 1,000, it'll say something else. It'll say like not all solutions found or something. I don't
Okay.
remember the wording. And if it does that, then this is not going to be accurate. These won't be accurate. But here it says all solutions found. We're already down to 77 solutions only. We want to get down to 1, obviously.
Yeah.
But this is telling you, hey, this is actually the maximum amount of logic you can do in this puzzle is this. And you can see that the stuff that we found is resolved. And there's also more. So this is hinting us that, hey, maybe there's some logic we didn't think about that's we didn't like figure out yet that's causing this 4, 3, and 1 to appear, which is interesting. So that's something to think about. So what we want to do is we want to erase it all again, and we want to solve from the start and just see how it feels so far.
Okay. Do I need to turn this off, or is this okay to stay here?
No, it's just
Okay.
you just click it once and it does it. It doesn't like stay on or anything. But if you go to center mark mode, you should be able to put that 5, 6 in if that's what you're thinking.
And then this we said would be a okay, so I would start with the 11 and say there's a 5, 6 there. And then we still need to use 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'd put the 3, 4 here, meaning this has to be a 1, 2.
Yep.
Whoop. And then we have a 5, which I would want to use 1 or 4 or 2 or 3 with. But we know the 1, 2 can't go at the top, so this would be 3, 4. And this would be 1, 2. And for 7, we know that this would have a 1, 2, 4.
Yeah. Now, something I've just noticed, because this is something that'll happen when you set, is something we added trivialized a deduction that we wanted. So now if you go and you look, you could do the logic we did here in column 6, but look, if you pencil the 3 cage as 1, 2, then it becomes a lot more obvious that now we just have a 1, 2 pair in the column. And that gives you the 4 right away. So it's something we could do, but also it's not what we wanted. So you have to make the decision. Do I like this anyway? Or do I want to go back to the drawing board and say, what do we do with that 2 that was eliminated? Right? Because you can see we have this 1, 2 pair here. So that's just going to give you the 4, which then gives you the 5 cage, which then resolves everything.
Yeah. And originally this was here as like a reward for this one, you were saying?
Yeah.
But now we just know it.
Exactly. And this will happen in setting all the time, where you're like, oh crap, that clue I added, which was really neat, ruined all the logic that I had before, right? Because it didn't exist until I added it.
Yeah.
So that's a decision for you. This is your puzzle. Like, do you like how this turned out, or do you want to like erase the 3 cage and try again, or experiment with other options?
I think I want to leave it. I'm thinking of how I solve puzzles, and if there's multiple ways to get to the same answer, that I think I'm going to stick with that, and we'll just keep that.
Okay. So we can leave this. That's perfectly fine. And it's really about the difficulty level you want for your puzzle, right?
Right.
Like who are you imagining solving it also? So we can just keep resolving then. So we have that 1, 2 pair. So that eliminates 1, 2 from that cell in the 7 cage, right? So you can just place the 4 in there. And then you should be able to resolve from here.
And so we ended up saying this was 3, so this has to be a 2, this will be a 1, this will be a 2, this will be a 1, this will be a 2.
Exactly. So now there were some digits that we got that were unexpected.
Yeah, I think here and here.
So I can already see that we have 2 1s on the right. So the 1 in the top right box is placed.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have that 1, 2 pair. So that's how that happened. I'm also seeing that, do you know the row column nomenclature? Row 3, column 1?
Yes. Yeah.
So row 3, column 1. That sees 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Right? So it can only be 3.
Yeah, it does. Okay. Yep.
And I'm not a genius. It's just the solver told us to find these digits, and I'm just remembering that. And so now this one's a 4 for the same reason.
Perfect.
So that's how we got those digits.
Nice.
Yeah. So now you might want to think about what, if I was solving this right now, what would I also pencil?
I would definitely put a 5, 6 right here for this row.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So act like a solver until you are forced to add a new clue. Then you have to think like a setter again.
Okay, perfect. So then I would, since I'm already here, then I would see this. 1, 2, 3. We still need to have a 4. And I think this might also be difficult because I'm looking at it as a new solver. And so I would do something like, oh, we can probably figure this out. But then I end up adding a lot of notes. 1, 2, 3.
Honestly, while setting, you tend to add more notes than a solver normally would because you don't want to miss anything.
So this would still need to be 4, 5, 6 here.
And also because the puzzle's not unique, so it's impossible to fill all the digits. So you end up with a bunch of notes. It just happens. And you can always clean them up. Like if you add them and you go, this is too much, you can always just delete them. So
here we would have a note that this is going to be 5, 6. And so I could put a cage here saying that this has to either be a 5 or a 6.
Have you penciled everything that you think a solver would pencil up to this point?
No, this would also be 1, 2.
I would do that first. Just use your instincts.
This would be 3, 4.
Not quite. 3, 4, 5, 6 for the column. You do have a 4 in the box, but
I forgot about that 4. This would still be a lot. 1, 2.
So it's 3, 4, 5, 6.
I'm debating if I would pencil that in. That's kind of a lot of numbers.
But there is a 4 in the box. Basically, so I don't know if you've noticed this about 6x6s, but it always has horizontal roping. So
So what is roping?
roping is where you have the same 3 digits, um, sort of. If you imagine a rope and how a rope is weaved, like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like they're sort of twisted around each other.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you think about it, so look at the box you're looking at now. You've got 1, 2, and 4 there.
Mm-hmm.
So the remaining 3 digits are 3, 5, 6 below it.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the box to its left, the top is 3, 5, 6, and the bottom is 1, 2, 4.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
In a 6x6, that's forced. That's always going to happen horizontally in a 6x6. In a 9x9, it is not, but it does happen sometimes, and it's called roping. And so I often use that to assist with my scanning in a 6x6 because I can just reference the other box. So like I know this is going to be 1, 2, 4, and I know on the right it's going to be 3, 5, 6.
Interesting. I've never caught that before.
Yeah, so it's a really handy shorthand. Like you don't need to know very much about Sudoku to have just arrived at that without even realizing that's what you were doing.
Yeah.
Because you can just use pairs, triples, digits that are given to sort of pencil the same thing. But it's really nice to think about. So sometimes you can use that in your cluing to great effect. So like you can have like a cage on the top of one box and then a cage on the bottom of the box to its right. And then the way they force digits kind of resolve each other, which can be really fun.
Okay.
So I'm not necessarily suggesting to do that in your first puzzle, and it might add a layer of difficulty, but I think that can be fun as well. But I think that's probably enough penciled in. So now the question is,
Mm-hmm.
what did we last do? And I think one of the cool things we found is that 3 and that 4, right? Those are naked singles that aren't necessarily easy to spot. And so maybe we want to reward spotting that in some way, like have a clue that interacts with them in some way.
Okay.
Now the
So
4, we got the 3 first, then we got the 4. The 3 gave the 4. So maybe rewarding the 4 is the way to go.
something here like a 10 that would have to use a 4 and a 6.
Well, 10 would break the puzzle because you can't put a 4 there.
Oh, yes. I'm thinking rows, same box. Okay.
And you don't have to stick to dominoes as well. Like if you want to play around with like a 3-cell cage that maybe pokes out and turns a corner, like that can all be useful. So for example, maybe like that cage you're drawing right now, if that cage requires a 4 in it, then now you know where it goes because
Right.
you placed that 4. So that's an
Okay.
interesting shape.
So something that would use a 4 could be like, can we still place 5, 6? If I do 4, 5, 6? I believe so. Being 15. That would help.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, let's do that. 15.
Okay,
So
so
the
now you
notes.
know.
It would be this, but then we place the 4 here.
Yep.
Whoops.
And so now you've created, yeah, you have the 3 in that column.
Perfect. We also take out this.
In fact, that's a 3 as well. Yeah, we got a 4 above it.
5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6 everywhere now.
Yeah, so you have a lot of 5, 6 pairs, which is neat. Um, in fact, that cell that you were hovering, row 5, column 3.
Yep.
So that sees 3, 4, 5, 6. Because do you see the 5, 6 pair in the column?
Yes.
So that cell can only be 1, 2. And now here's the interesting thing. You remember the roping. So look at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess you do have this 1, 2 pair. So let's resolve that first because I might be talking about something that's not relevant anymore. But
This will be a 4, so then this is also 1, 2. I think. Oh, and then
Mhm.
this is given also. I, that's all I'm seeing immediately.
So what we can do is we can check by hitting that solver button again, just to make sure that we're not missing anything. So it's figured out that there's a 3 down there somehow, but otherwise it's about the same as what you had. I think there should be an undo to go back to what you had. Yeah, if you just hit undo. So this is what you had. So yeah, that 3 is actually pretty... Sorry, you did have a 4 there. But that 3 is just to finish off the row, the bottom row. You just need a 3 there. So if you think about the roping on the bottom band there, you see how there's 1, 2 at the bottom of box 6 there?
Yes.
And then you already know where those 1, 2 go on the box to its left, because you have that 1, 2 pair. So that means that middle digit has to be the same digit as that 5, 6 that's next to the 1, 2. Do you see what I mean?
So whatever this, I know that this could be penciled in as a 5, 6, but it would
Yeah.
also just match whatever ends up being here.
Yeah. And you can also trace your 5, 6 pairs and notice that as well. So I would recommend at this point coloring our pairs, because we want to make sure we resolve them with a cage in a way that makes sense. I think they'll just resolve on their own anyway, though. But let me tell you about coloring anyway, just because it's helpful. We're not coloring them
Yeah.
all the same color. We're
Oh,
coloring the 5, 6s different colors based on which one they are.
okay.
So pick 2 colors that contrast well, that makes sense to you.
Okay, so I'll start with this one. It's going to be the same as whatever this is,
Yeah,
which
so
would
you
then
give
be the
them the
same as
same colors.
this
Yeah.
one, and this one, and then this one, and then this one would all be the same
Yep.
color.
Okay. And then just the other 5, 6, just give a contrasting color.
Come on. Let's do green.
Okay. And you can do the same to the 1, 2s that remain if you want. Just different colors, 2 more colors. And this is a
And
really
choose
nice
this
technique
one.
while solving. Though I admit it's probably overkill here, but I think it's a good thing to learn anyway.
It's good practice for when I eventually... Somebody mentioned 110 by 110, which is
What?
wild. But
I would never. I would get bored so fast.
that would take me days.
No, yeah. That's like something you do when you're extremely bored. But
Right.
anyway, so you can kind of imagine we can place a cage where a 5, 6 is next to a 1, 2, and just choose how it resolves. Like make it a 6 cage or make it an 8 cage. Do you see what I mean?
So, yeah, I've kind of been doing them all in the same box. I want to do one that crosses a line.
Yeah, so that's a good spot there. So basically choose 6 or 8. It doesn't matter, they'll both resolve the same, but
I can just choose one. Okay, let's do an 8.
okay. So you see how the 8 forces this to be 6, 2.
Yes.
So now all your reds are 6, all your purples are 2. Right?
Perfect. And then
And
all
then
the yellows
now,
would be 1s.
exactly.
And my greens would be 5s.
Mm-hmm. And there you go. You have a puzzle.
We
And we
did
can double
it!
check. We can double check just by hitting that final solutions.
This
It's
is a
unique.
unique solution based on already entered values and pencil marks.
So if you delete everything, we should just make sure.
Is there a select all? I kind of like
Probably
snaking
Control A.
across, but...
Probably Control A.
Unique
There you go.
solution! Nice!
So now you have a puzzle. So the hardest part, you have to name it.
Oh my gosh.
So if you click the
Nameless
pencil
Sudoku.
where it says nameless,
Well, I am ChattyKathy.
mhm, you can click set as default, so it'll remember that for you.
Oh, cool. Name. Oh my gosh. I really like when people name puzzles after me and they're called ChattyKathy. I've already done some ChattyKathys on the channel. Is there a pun? Can I be really annoying with puns? And
You
there's
can name
some
it
pun
whatever
with
you want.
killer cages. Oh, I'll have to think about this. Wait, killer cages. KC. ChattyKathy is CK. Oh, there's
Mm.
something here.
How about Killer Kathy?
I was thinking that. Will that break terms of service on YouTube? Don't shut me down, YouTube. This is a funny joke. Killer
I say killer
Kathy.
cage all the time. It's fine.
I like it.
So rules. This is where you would type normal 6x6 Sudoku rules.
Um, and then like explain what killer
Killer
cages are.
cages. I have text you can copy paste in there, so we can just do that if you want.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So just say, you can honestly just say standard killer cages for now, and don't elaborate, and just hit update there. Okay.
Nice.
So now what you want to do is you want to save this so you don't lose it, and actually the URL updates as you go. So that URL is unique to this puzzle, and you can just save that off somewhere, just so you don't lose it.
Beautiful.
And now, of course, you want to be able to play it in SudokuPad. So if you
Right.
click the share button at the top,
Okay.
and you go to SudokuPad on the right. So first of all, use currently filled in values as the solution. So you have that. Make sure you have that checked. And then just click share. Click share on the bottom right. Actually, you should be able to just copy to clipboard. Sorry, that's probably better. Okay, and now just in a new tab, you can paste that.
Killer Kathy by
Your...
ChattyKathy. Look at that.
There it is. And so now my recommendation is to try to solve your own puzzle and see how it feels.
Perfect. And we're going to go fast because we're fast. This is going to be 3, 4. This is going to be 1, 2. This would be, we said this was 3, 4, and this was 1, 2. And then, oh, I'm trying to like kind of forget how I did it before, but I also don't want to. This is 1, 2, 4.
It's good to try to experience it as someone who is... I like to do a solve that follows my path just to make sure it feels good. And then I like to do a solve that tries its hardest not to follow my path. Like the person is just not seeing what I want them to see, and see how far they get without seeing it.
So at this point, when we were making it, the solver kind of said what these were, but I didn't notice that right away. So
right.
I
Hopefully you
would
notice the
have...
4 in that column resolving the 5 cage though.
Sorry, what did you say?
The 4 you placed in column 6.
Oh, yes.
So at this point, oh, you actually built a 3 in the corner into the puzzle.
Nice, not even on purpose.
Yeah. Someone calculated the odds in a 9x9 of a random puzzle having a 3 in the corner, which is pretty funny.
Oh yeah.
I forget what the odds were.
Let's see. 4 can't go here. And this happened because... Oh wow, what was it? We got this first because 2, 1. Oh, because there's a 1, 2 up here already, and we can't have a 1 here, so this is a 1.
Yep.
And then we still need a 3, 5, 6 here, but 5, 6 can't go here, so this is a 3, and then this.
So probably the way I would find that is I would do the roping as a solver. So if you erase that and the 3, probably what I would do is I would fill 3, 5, 6 into the row and the box, and I'd fill 1, 2, 4 below it. Because I'm an overmarker like that. And so I've also put 3, 5, 6 there.
So how do you know when there's 2, 1, 4 that it goes here and not... Well, that's a bad example because of that, but not here.
Well, okay, so think about box 3 in general. Where does 1, 2, 4 go in that box?
Okay, yeah, that actually makes sense. Yep, it would have to go there.
Yeah. And so now you know that the rest of this box is 3, 5, 6 as well. So I would mark that, and then probably at that point I would notice the 5, 6 pair also affecting it.
Right. Okay, that definitely makes sense. 1, 2, 5, 6. So from here we would say
The other thing I would definitely have marked up as a solver is that 15 cage. I would just put 4, 5, 6 in it because it's the only way to make 15.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. And I would say we can't have a 4 and an 8 cage here. So
Yep.
pairing with a 1 or a 2 would be either a 5 or a 6 also.
And
Then
look, we've
these are
got a
the only
5,
two
6 pair.
places 5, 6. So this has to be
Yeah.
a 4.
Neat.
And this will be a 3 because of Sudoku rules.
And remember, digits can't repeat in a cage. The 4 is eliminated also from that cell.
I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, killer cages, digits can't repeat. It's an important aspect of them.
And then I would look at this and say we still need a 3, 5, 6, but you can't put a 3 here, so this would have to be 5, 6. So this would have to be a 3.
Yep.
And this won't be a 3. So we have 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6 again. We can place the 4 here because of this and this, and this 4 goes there. This will also
By
be
the way,
5, 6.
the way you marked up the 8 cage isn't quite right because I don't think the 5 works. The only way you're doing it is 2, 6.
Yep, you're right.
You marked it like it was a 7 cage, I think.
So because of this, we would just know that this is a 2 at this point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that actually resolves all your 5, 6s.
Let's do 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 5, 6.
That's fun.
I love when
It's
that
always
happens.
satisfying. Yeah. Your 2 also resolves the 1, 2 above there.
1, 2.
I generally like to assume that the solver is scanning properly because if they don't scan properly, you can't account for that.
Right.
So I generally do have the conflict checker on just while I'm test solving my own puzzles because I don't like just missing an obvious thing. But that's up to you. It depends on how you want to feel it out. So it looks like you solved it.
528 on my own puzzle. Nice.
Yeah, and they're the first to solve it.
Solve counter 1 in less than 1 hour. I liked this puzzle.
I like
First
this
like.
puzzle. Okay, so now I recommend trying to solve it in a different way. Right? Start somewhere else. Try to avoid the logic that you wanted and see how it feels that way. And if do you get stuck? Does it solve another way? Do you like that?
Okay, so not starting with the 11. We could see the 15 and say this has to be 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
We don't know what yet. We also know the 3 would be 1, 2.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'd probably look at the 8 and say, well, it can't be 4, 4, so it would have to be 3, 5 or 2, 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd make a dumb joke about how it can't be 1, 7 because there's no 7s here.
Yeah. I'm so used to 9 by 9. I used to be so used to 9 by 9s. Now I'm used to 6 by 6 by well because I solve so many adventures. But
I have to remind myself constantly.
Yeah, I would pencil in 7s, 8s, and 9s all the time.
Yeah. We could say.
So there are a lot of forced cages in the grid, and I think a solver would probably at least fill the forced ones.
Yeah.
Like that 5, 6, and the 11, and the 1, 2, 4, and the 7. I think you can expect a solver to have that penciled.
They're going to be smart.
Yeah. And so then if they're an over penciler like me, they would also pencil the rest of that box as 3, 5, 6, and they discover something interesting.
And then they're like, hey, 3, 5, 6 goes here, so this has to be a 2.
Yep.
And this has to be a 6. And then we're going to say that you can also flip-flop these and that this will be 1, 4 because we learned about roping today.
Yeah.
And then I would see this first, but then I would say, oh wait, 5, 6, this has to be a 3. So this has to be a 5 and this has to be a 6. And then a 7, not using, actually at this point you could still say it could be 6, 1, but nope, you can't. 3, 4.
Yeah, you're trying your hardest not to notice that it had to be 3, 4, but at this point it's pretty clear.
1, 2 here. Then we'd look at this and say some combination of 1, 2, 3, 4, but this one can't be 1, 2, and this one can't be 3, 4. So then we have 1, 2, 1, 2, making this a 4. and this a
And
1, 2,
we're back
5.
to what we had basically.
Yeah, and
But
it's pretty
it's nice that
straightforward.
there's kind of an alternate route to get a bunch of these digits, which is
Right.
I think what you said you like. You like to have multiple routes through.
Yeah.
So you're welcome to finish it, but it's going to finish the same way. That
Same
6
thing.
that you placed, by the way, it's kind of interesting. This might be something you want to use in another puzzle, which is, do you see how that 6 sees 2 of the 3 cells of that 15 cage?
This one? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because of this and this.
Yeah, so that forces where the 6 goes in the cage.
Nice. 4, 5, 4, 5. I just solved this a minute ago. Where are we going from here?
You
6,
missed
1,
it's
2.
just a scanning problem. You missed that the 4 in the column.
We're gonna turn this on.
Okay.
Oh, also that can't be a 6. 3, making this a 2, and this can't be a 3, and this can't be a 2. So this is a 1. This is a 2. This is a 1. This is a 2. This is a 1. This is a 2. How did that work?
You placed the 2
Oh, that
in
was
the 8
earlier.
cage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Solving it differently has completely thrown me off now. It's not the same way of thinking at all.
Use your roping.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we have a 6, 2, 1. So this.
Roping is always within the same band.
Okay, that makes. Okay, so this would be 2, 1.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. So we know what this one is, and this one is, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. We can place these. So this is a 4. So this is a 4, and then this would need to be, because of this, a 3, 5. But we can place the 5. 3, 6, 5, 3. We still need a 1 down here, but it can't go here, so it'll be that. This will be a 5, 6, but it can't be a 5, so it'll be a 6, and this will be a 5, and this will be a 6. And up here, we still need 4, 5.
There you go.
Nice.
So you solved it in a different way. Still was fun, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Very
All right,
nice.
so you have your first puzzle created.
First puzzle. That's so exciting.
So yeah, it's all about creating a path to solve the puzzle. Solve it as much as you can, then place more clues so you can keep going. You also ran into the thing where it's like, we had this cool piece of logic, then I added a clue and it removed the cool piece of logic. But
right.
That'll happen. Like, it's really, preserving a break-in is a learned skill that is very difficult. So like, some people try to come up with these really complex, difficult break-ins, and then it's really hard to finish the puzzle preserving that piece of logic that they wanted. And that can take, you know, some people spend a lot of time on one puzzle. But in this case, because you were just going for kind of a straightforward puzzle, you can set these pretty quickly, as you saw.
Yeah, that wasn't half as bad as I expected it to be.
Nice. Well, I'm glad my coaching helped.
Yay! Yes, definitely.
I'd be interested to
so
see if you try to set a puzzle on your own, how that goes.
Oh, I have to now.
Maybe pick another constraint that you want to play with, or now you've learned some more about setting with killer, you could set another killer. But yeah, cool.
Killer Kathy 2, Killer Kathy Jr.
There you go.
I have it made already. Well, nice. Thank you so much. I had a good time with this. This is definitely, I really like the way you explain things. It's really easy to understand. I think you're a good teacher, so this was super easy. I picked this up really well. It was nice.
And maybe this will inspire some of your viewers to also start setting, which would be awesome.
Do that. If you're watching this, you should try doing this as well.
All right. And if you like Sudoku, I do a lot of it on my channel, and I explain how things work. I've got the Sudoku Adventure series, which is a bunch of 6x6 variants that are designed to be approachable. And I also do the New York Times medium and hard Sudokus, classic Sudokus every day, and I explain the logic for how to solve those. And a bunch of other stuff. So check me out if you'd like.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked the video. I will definitely put links in the description for all of this, and let me know how you did in the comments if you solved this. Thank you. Bye.